I've been a practicing marriage and family therapist for more than 40 years. And when I look back on my own career and the role that CFAMFT has played, I think about the fact that in the early 70s, the epicenter of family therapy in this community was the greenhouse. It was the place where people who didn't know how to be a family therapist were learning. Where we sort of invented family therapy as the country was inventing therapy. If you look around at the major thought leaders in the field of family therapy, they were coming to fore in the late 60s and 70s, and in many ways the 60s didn't come to Orlando until the 70s. It was that kind of community. But as a small group of family therapists that you could probably count on one or two hands in Central Florida, we gathered together before the creation of this organization into a small discussion group at lunch, headed up by Dave Epley, who was in practice in Winter Park, Judy Provost, who was at Rollins, and a variety of us that were involved in the greenhouse. And we met in the Park Avenue building on Park Avenue, which used to be part of Rollins College. So the next time you're on Park Avenue and you're standing in front of Starbucks, take a look, and there's a plaque on the sidewalk that has bricks from the old Park Avenue building. And every time I see it, I don't think of the Park Avenue building as part of the school system or part of Rollins College. I think of it as the place where family therapy began and the Central Florida Marriage and Family Association early roots began.
CFAMFT had pretty humble beginnings. Actually, my memory is that I was attending an FAMFT conference here in Orlando, and I met Jackie Berger. Jackie had just moved from Jersey, and I had recently moved from Pennsylvania, and I was totally out of the loop in terms of any professional affiliation here in Orlando. So we began talking at the end of the conference. And a few months later, I received a call from her inviting me to her office. She shared office space with Larry Webb. It began with about 8 or 10 of us meeting on a monthly basis at Larry Webb's office. Now, remember, this was pre-licensure. So we were all really challenged by figuring out our identity as marriage and family therapists. And we got together to talk about the challenges of being in practice. We spent an awful lot of time trying to identify who we are in the larger community. It was within a year or so, I guess, that we expanded and began to reach out to the larger professional community and began to meet at the Mental Health Association on Mariposa. And it was at that point that we really became a more formal organization, but it was much later that we actually became affiliated with the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy.
I started attending the CFAMFT meetings in 1981 at Mariposa. Jackie Berger was president. I remember she would bring her dog to the meetings. It was quite interesting, the dog running around. But it was an informal time. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the early 80s when we all became licensed. And prior to that, you only had to pay $50, get an occupational license, and anybody could be a therapist. In my tenure, we also had Monica McGoldrick coming in, Evan Ember Black, where we had a family in one room. She was working with a blending family in the audience in the other room. And then we also had some other major speakers coming in, and we went from just a couple of $1,000s in the kitty to, I think, $12,000 by the end of my tenure.
Some of my favorite memories are the ones that took place before we were formally formed. That was from 71 on, and we became a group in 81 or so, and licensing came in 82. I remember a lot of places that we met. We were so loosely formed. A lot of us didn't know one another, and I remember being at conferences and meeting people and saying, oh, you're from Orlando too? Well, we need to get together. So groups were meeting in different places, little groups, and then somehow we began to find each other. And the qualities that always drew me to this group and still to this day have been that we were more cooperative than competitive. And Carl Whitaker said, if you want to save your life as a therapist, surround yourself with people whose eyes light up when they see you coming. And that's what happened with this group. We were delighted to see one another. And the goal was to do good work and serve people well and to be ethical in our practices. And that was a kind of a sustaining part of this group, and it became a part of our culture.
One of my earliest memories of the marker events for our local organization was when we decided to host a training weekend. And I was the program chair for picking out somebody, and I was interested in the Mental Research Institute in California. So that was our very first event. And I was particularly interested in Lynn Siegel, who had written several articles. So I talked to everybody about Lynn Siegel and what she did and what she didn't do and all those kinds of things. So everybody was really interested in that. And then I called California to orchestrate her coming to Orlando, and discovered when I talked to her secretary that Lynn Siegel was in fact a man. And that provided some interesting moments. But anyway, Lynn showed up in his male form and did very well, and it was a huge success. And I think that was also the beginning of using the money as a part of our student scholarship.
Some of the early memories for me and the highlight in markers of CFAMFT came in the early 80s when I joined in 1982. And my earliest recollection was meeting at Seminole County Mental Health, and then we moved to Mariposa. So we went back and forth. You know, we really didn't have a home for a while, but then we were settled in on Mariposa, and all we talked about on Mariposa was we were getting licensed, so we all were very concerned about that.
When I came into CFAMFT, it was a vibrant association with learned people, very, very exciting, cutting edge. Everyone was really pulling together, and education was such a big thing. The programs were so exhilarating. I came in at a time where licensure was happening, and then in the mid-90s, the managed care stuff came in. And it had a petrifying effect on the group. And that's when I found my niche as the stand-up therapist of the group.
CFAMFT has meant so much to me. I moved here in January of '82. I'd been a marriage and family therapist in the Midwest. I already had my clinical membership with AMFT, so I was looking for a local marriage and family group, and I think found out about the CFAMFT through AMFT. My plan was to have gone into private practice. Life has a way of making other plans for us. I got pregnant instead, stayed home for the next 5 years raising our son, and the monthly meetings with CFAMFT were just a professional lifeline for me. Not only do we have these great meetings, I could network with other professionals. We had wonderful nationally known speakers that we brought to conferences for the community. It was through CFAMFT that I worked in the 2 agencies I worked in prior to going into private practice. My office mates I've met through CFAMFT. When my family and friends have needed counseling, I've turned to colleagues in CFAMFT.
This organization has meant a lot of different things to me at different times. Having been involved in it, and I can't even tell you now, listening to all different people, when we actually started. But I know that in '81, when we were over at the Mental Health Association, that's when I really got involved. And it was so exciting. It was about finding like-minded people. It was coming together to discuss new ideas and new therapies, and we were just young and excited, and supervision was a big thing. The Greenhouse Counseling Center, which was the place to go, and some of our members worked there. I remember working with Russ Hyatt there and trying to put up a one-way mirror. But there were other aspects to it. So there was the professional aspect to it, the collegial part of it.
What I'd like to mention about the meaning of this organization for me is that I started my membership as a student. And I know a lot of people have come into CFAMFT as student members. And what it provided me was a connection collegially in a way that a graduate program could not do at the time. We were learning content, but to really understand what was happening professionally, especially with licensure being newly introduced to Florida, and getting the exposure to people who were what I would call the forerunners of our professional group, and the experienced individuals in the field in the Central Florida community was something that was really quite treasured I certainly treasured it. But really, as a student member coming in 22 years ago, I think it really introduced me in a way to the profession that a graduate program could not, no matter how good it was, and made connections that have served me and I've benefited from and stayed connected through for all these years.
Some of the valuable innovations that I can see in our future would include continuing our development of our website and our online therapist directory in an effort to provide information not only to our therapists that are members of our group, but also to our community at large. And now that we have a Facebook presence, the opportunities are limitless to engage the community in talking about the benefits of therapy and dispelling some of the myths of what it means to come into counseling. And it's also an opportunity for all of us therapists to stay connected.
I have been a member of this organization for the past 5 years, and I have the privilege now to be a board member of the organization. We are very capable of doing a lot of the different things that our licensed mental health counselors and licensed social workers are able to do, and so increasing that advocacy is so important for our future of CFAMFT.
And one of the things when I was thinking about this question, I kept going back to our mission statement, which was to connect, or is to connect and support a community of counseling professionals to facilitate their professional identity, growth, and development in order to promote healthy relationships among those we serve. And one of the keys to good, effective leadership, I believe, is to be a lifelong learner. And that's one of the things that I really think CFAMFT is innovative and will continue to succeed because we are all lifelong learners.
First, I must say I am so proud to be a member of this organization. And when the question came to me, what innovations I see for the future, it didn't take me long to think about, because as you can see, most times when I come here, I've been a member for approximately 5 years, and most times when I'm at the meetings, I hardly see any African Americans. And so that's one of the big things for me. I know they're out there. I know they're African American therapists, but where are they? What are we doing to get them to be a member of our organization? This is a wonderful organization, and this organization has meant a lot to me in the past as a student, and as I continue in my profession, it has uplifted me in so many ways.
When I think of innovations for the future of CFAMFT, I think of old concepts reinvented. Having a very, very sound presence on the internet is paramount in today's day and age. And